good almost afternoon. Hopefully you're having a good day already. Who's ready for a cup of Joe? I'm such an idiot, man. Man, I didn't wake up till super, super late. This is because if you've ever dealt with sleeping issues, insomnia, stuff like that, you know how it goes. Now, this last bout wasn't bad at all. But you know how it goes. After a week or so of slowly getting back or whatever, you have that one day where your body decides to make up for all of it. And last night was it. Slept about 12 hours, 11 and a half hours. Oh, my gosh. Anyway. And then spent an hour trying to roll my big ass out of bed. Anyway, hopefully you had a great weekend. And you're getting ready to have a great week. This is a huge week for me. I've got to get ready for this new job. I can't do my other podcast. I just don't have the time. I barely have the time to do this. Because I got to get into some technical manuals and stuff like that. And just going to be a nutty week. Plus, I got some stuff to do. Been talking about it. Anyway. I want to talk about something that it's a little bit different than what I've been doing here, but I can tie it into everything else that I've been talking about socially and things of that nature. Recently, we acquired a new sports franchise here in Louisville. They're part of the NWSL, which is the National Women's Soccer League, called Racing Louisville. The team itself, not having a real good year. They're an expansion team. Expansion teams never really do well. Box office wise, as far as ticket sales for this league, they're doing pretty well. They're averaging about 6,000 tickets sold a game, roughly. For this league, I think that puts them in second place. There's one team that gets like 12,000, Portland, and the rest of them sort of between 5 and 4-ish, 3-ish, 4, 5, 3. But there's been a bit of an outcry recently in women's soccer for equal pay for women in the national team, which is a completely separate issue in a way, and I'll talk about that in a second. But now there's been some conversation about increasing women's pay in NWSL to where they want to make living wages. Now, I'll be honest with you. I mean, the base pay, I believe, is somewhere around $20,000. You can't make a living on $20,000. I mean, you just can't. And even the people that have been here for a while, you're only making $35,000, $40,000 a year. Now, here's, there is an outcry for, increasing the pay. They're talking about starting a union. I believe that's what the conversation is starting a union and forcing some more revenue being pushed their way, which is fine. God bless America. I mean, I hope they all make $1 million. I support the league. I want them to do well. But I think the argument becomes about how, well, they're doing the same thing as the men and they should be making the same amount of money. That is absolutely 100% inaccurate. And here's why. Sports is not a vocation, is not a core vocation for American society, as much as we'd like to think we'd flip out. If there was no NFL, for example, if the NFL just died tomorrow, okay. Now, a lot of people would be out of work. There would, it would have an impact on local economies. People that have built stores and shops around the people who work in these stores and sell merchandise and all the people that work at the stadiums themselves, obviously the players, so on and so forth. It would be a big impact, but it would be a fraction of an impact compared to what COVID did, and we're getting through that, right? NWSL doesn't have that footprint anywhere that footprint. They have 10 franchises. Once again, I said with the exception of one team that draws about 11,000 a game, roughly 11 or 12. The rest of the teams average about 5,000, and that's ticket sales. So, how much revenue are they keeping for themselves that they can give to the players? It could be more. I'm not saying they should or they shouldn't. This conversation is about how sometimes how we feel about things and the practicality of the spreadsheets don't intertwine well, and that's bled and permeated through society now. How we feel about things is the way they should be without taking things into consideration. And that's why I'm using this as an example. Once again, I want them to make as much money as they possibly can. I'm a capitalist. Make your dough, man. Sport, like I said, sports is an entertainment venue. Sports is entertainment. It is not a core vocation. It's not a doctor. It's not a plumber. It's not a cop. It's not a first responder. It's not military. It's not things that we need. Even, and I'm including men. That includes men's soccer too. Okay, I'm not differentiating between like we need men's soccer, but we don't need women's. We don't need any professional sports. Okay, so let's lose that connotation for a second. If you're not a core vocation, it becomes purely about entertainment. It is an entertainment venue, and entertainment revenue is driven by 4 things now. You're driven by the turnstile, the gate, the amount of tickets you sell. You're driven by merchandise, ads, the money you receive from ads and companies that are willing to sponsor you, either a team or a league. And then also that's if you're receiving money, say from a federation, which the women's league does, they get some money, so you can include that as well. Money donated, if any, for lack of a better word. And then the 4th thing, which is a huge driver now, is sports gambling. So, if you're not generating that kind of revenue, you're only going to get what you're bringing in. It's entertainment. It has nothing to do with gender. There are plenty of women, either individual or bands, or that have generated a ton of revenue for themselves. Serena Williams is a perfect example of someone. Danica Patrick. Even back in the day, Martina Navratilova, there have been plenty of women athletes who made a lot of money because they were a draw. And that's how it works. Even entertainers. You want to talk about Joan Jett and Madonna and Pink. You can go down a list of tremendous women entertainers, whether you like them or not. They generate a ton of revenue for themselves, way more than a lot of the men do. It has to do with how many people come to see your product. USL MLS, USL. I get all the men's leagues. They draw pretty well. I mean, they're doing pretty well right now. The USL is actually doing pretty much better for a Division II league as a whole. They're not doing bad at all. And then obviously MLS has been drawing pretty well the last couple of years. Their TV numbers are still shit, but at least they're getting more people to come watch their games. And the women's is too. But there comes a point where if I own a business, I'm saying I want to make X amount of money, and I'm only bringing in this amount of money, so this is all I can afford my staff, and the players and trainers and coaches, they're part of the staff. If they don't have the money, what are you asking them to do? Lose money on sport? What do you think they're going to do to the team? They're going to sell the franchise, and nobody's going to buy. Well, let me take that back. Somebody that's philanthropic, somebody that's looking to advance into something. Yeah, you might get somebody to donate money to buy your team or buy in a sport, any sport. If they're looking to push that sport into the public eye a little bit more. So if you get somebody philanthropic, yeah, maybe you'll get somebody like that who say, yeah, I don't mind losing money on this. That's the kind of person you need to attract then. If you're talking about giving more money to whoever your entertainment force is, then you're bringing in. This is entertainment 101. You make who comes to watch you. That's it. So this argument where there's some sort of comparison of women's soccer to men's soccer being the same as a woman's doctor to a men's doctor, that's insanity. It's not. There's no comparison whatsoever. You need to stop saying that. You need to start making better arguments. The best argument is we need more eyes on our product. And here's the problem with women's sports right now. Because they've become so entwined in a specific social message. And the WNBA is definitely in this. Women's soccer not as bad, but still, or not as deep. And but they're in there too. The messaging, all the social messaging is heavily to the left. Well, if you're a right-wing person who has a daughter who wants to go watch a match, maybe you don't bring her because you don't want to be involved in any of that. If they want to bring more eyes in, they got to make some decisions. And I'm talking about the supporters themselves. How do you bring in people who have a different worldview of things, if you're constantly telling them they're bad and they're evil, and the one thing that does get me pissed off is when you see a person who puts no money towards the team in the sense of owning the team, telling other people, well, don't come. Hey, this isn't your team. Emotionally, it's your team, of course, but you don't have an ownership stock in it. Buying a ticket doesn't mean you're part of ownership. Buying a ticket means you're willing to come watch the event. That's it. That's all you're willing to do. So this gets me a little upset because I would like to see the team grow in a town, a blue town. Louisville has become a very blue town, surrounded by very red counties. Well, how do you attract players from those counties? How do you attract parents from those counties? You have to become more inclusive. That's the word. That's the big word on the left now, isn't it? Inclusiveness, inclusiveness, inclusiveness. Well, reach out to them and talk to them. And that's part of what I've been talking about since day one when I started doing this podcast. Is conversations between people who might not line up ideologically. And saying, all right, where do you stand? Here's where I stand. Here's something that I'm involved in that maybe we can find some commonality. At least we can start bridging some gaps. I'm sorry, that's not happening amongst NWSL supporters. It's not happening at all. If you all hear this and you want to get mad at me, go ahead, get mad at me. What do I care? I'm speaking truth right now. I want to help the product. I want to see them get better. I want to see them have more people come in so they can start making the money that I'd like to see them make. I hope they all make $1 million. But if your messaging is so specific that it keeps people out and you're making it about you, okay, good luck. Good luck. Because after a while, unless somebody comes in to subsidize, like the end of the WNBA is subsidized by the NBA. That's the only reason it's still in existence. They lose about $10 million a year. You can look that up yourself. That's right out of Forbes. They lose about $10 million, if not more, a year now. This league can't take a $10 million hit a year, and NWSL will be dead in a year. They can't afford that. They only bring in like $5 million revenue for a whole season, maybe $6 million. They can't take a $10 million hit. So, look, I want to see the league grow. I want to see the teams grow. I want to see it become more part of the national conversation. But the social messaging has become a bridge. I'm sorry, a gap that they're not bridging amongst the supporter communities. And until that becomes something, and the ownership gets the cojones to say, look, we want more people in here. We want to keep making money. The only way to do that is to bring more people in here. And the only way to do that is to make sure that the messaging is as vanilla as is possible politically or social politically. Until that happens, this league is teetering. This league is not, it doesn't have, is it financially solvent like the NFL or the NHL or Major League Baseball? It's not even close. So it's a bit of a rant because I want to see the league succeed. But it's part of everything that I've been talking about. The only way to do that is to bridge gaps. And if you're not bridging gaps, you're wasting time. If you're wasting time, you can sit there and talk about how it should be this and should be that and should be the other thing. What it is right now is a league that's barely holding on financially. And the players want more money. If the league's barely holding on financially, and the players want more money, then something has to happen where more money can be given to them. And if the owners turn around and say, look, we're not making any money. How can I give you more money if we're really not making it? And you make your stance, well, we don't care. Okay, good luck. Then you need to get some philanthropic people in here or people who are willing to reach out to communities that are not politically aligned with your social political messaging. If I'm wrong, give me the third option without being petulant about it. Okay, give me the third option and I'll listen. So there you go. Man, 13 minutes. Anyway, I've got to get on with my day. Like I said, I've been doing all of this stuff here, getting ready for next week and got some big decisions to make. So please pray for me. I appreciate it. And man, I hope this league takes off. I really do. I really want to see it do well. I love you. I want you to have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Talk to you soon.